Welcome, everybody. You all here okay? Well, this is our second night where we are experimenting with the song and the story format, and it is still a work in progress. Those of you who were here the last time might remember that we had 8 songs and 1 reader per song. Tonight we have 5 songs with 2 readers per song. And part of what we're doing is we're just trying to get as many readers up here as we can and still have that song mix. The format is really simple. I will announce the title of the song, although you should have it in front of you. You will hear from the readers. You have 2 readers. And then you will hear from our house musicians, either Victor and Scotty or Stuart and Amy. I have like 3 lines and I can't remember what I wanted to say. The rules that the writers had were really simple. A, they needed to keep their reading under 300 words, and you know what happens when you don't follow those rules. And B, they needed to use the title of the song either in their piece or as a prompt for the piece. And that's it. I think you're going to enjoy this night. We had a great time the last time we did this. We're going to have a great time tonight. As you know, I always mention the orange bucket, and I have simply run out of things to say, which is why you now have a picture of an orange bucket on your table. For those of you not familiar with the orange bucket, it's right back there. And we are a nonprofit association. We would love to have your donations at the end of this evening. We figure if everybody leaves a $5 donation on their way out, that has made a substantial contribution to this program, to keeping us going and to the guild. Or $50, Stuart says. We're just going to jump right in and get started. And when I first put out the song titles, I think within a day, Steve Robeson had signed up for a song, and the song he signed up for was Playing with Fire by the Rolling Stones. But the really cool thing is that he had used all 5 titles in a poem that he wrote, and I was like, no, you're not doing a song, you're starting the whole event. I love that creativity. I don't know if he's happy with that, but Steve Robeson.
I shall walk from your long, slim grief into my willing words, or close the dusty blinds, block out today's bright sun. This quiet moment beckons as each new teardrop falls. Tell your little white lie from sweet justifications and well-reasoned rationalizations. Walk through the rain, block the pain, quell every ire, play with my fire. Just walk away from this quiet conversation as the rains cry tears at your departing, warning of peril fueling for each reservation. Won't you reconsider? Forgive my desperation. Let's reconsider the conversation. We once danced in wonder, you and your diamond-studded tiara. We fell through each depth of every glowing fire, writhing, rising, melding through each private, unspoken word. You told me once it was not to be, and that possibility I refused to fathom. Divided my time in a mediocre walk, passing each signpost as years passed by each day. Walking with weary eyes, a choice to go on as winter flowed with the promise of your spring. Will you dance now in this moment of our winsome silence, in this fragrant new start of new percussion? Dive bravely into your deep blue sadness, that I may shine on you a dazzling white and lead you to our destined and lasting solace. Breathe, wake, dance just where you are, say anything. Tell me the truth or a little white lie. Say something, say anything as we dance this quiet conversation. Say something, something black, blue, red, white. I rest on your tongue's anticipated potential, your private conversation. The steel guitar is ready, the fiddle tuned. It's time for you to stand and dance just where you are. Or, if you must, just walk away and I'll miss your smiling face. As you say it best, say nothing, nothing at all.
So our first song is Playing with Fire by the Rolling Stones. Victor and Scotty are going to play it in a minute after we hear from Frank Minnie and Tom Hoyer. So Frank.
The name of this piece is Playing with Fire or Swish. What? Swish. We attended school from kindergarten. We attended school from kindergarten through 12th grade. Al was skinny, uncoordinated, couldn't dribble, couldn't shoot. So he very seldom got picked in one of our 3-on-3 half-court games. I know it hurt his feelings, made him mad, but it also made him determined. So he practiced until on any given day he could make 8 out of 10 shots from the corner. He was chosen after that. By 50, he had already earned his degree in mechanical engineering and was classified as a certified and admitted alcoholic. He had a good government job and he was good at his job, so he got a few more chances than you usually get for his unexcused absences. Namely, he got 3 sessions at PSI, which is the Betty Ford of the Washington metropolitan area. He told me that the Institute had a great library, and he especially liked the psychology books, especially the one that his therapist wrote. Because he said, I read it, and then I would go into the conferences and rebut him just to piss him off, he said with that evil grin. Well, on the 28th day of a 30-day section, on the 3rd session, with his job and respectability on the line, he went in and continued to play mind games with his therapist. Until finally, the therapist pushed a swivel chair away from the mahogany desk, turned red in the face and said, get the fuck out now. You're an alcoholic. You'll always be a hopeless alcoholic, so get the fuck out. Al was 6 months sober when he told me that story. 15 years later, he was still on the wagon. He retired with full benefits, full pension. I'm sure that doctor thought or knew he was playing with fire when he used that seemingly unprofessional final command. Me, I want to call him up and tell him thank you for your expertise. Thank you for figuring out just what would motivate my friend to sobriety. I want to tell him, nice shot, 3 points from behind the arc. Switch.
Lisa's trying to score.
Okay. In the summer of 1970, the Stones' Play with Fire was 5 years old. The Doors' Light My Fire was 3 years old. I was 24 years old and stationed at Camp Casey by the DMZ in Korea. Korea had 2 advantages. 1, it wasn't Vietnam. 2, good stereo component sets were cheap at the Post Exchange and could be sent home at no cost at the end of the tour. By custom, soldiers were allowed to keep their equipment in plywood cabinets called kimchi stands. That night, the barracks were alive with music. In the summer of 1970, we got a new company commander. He was Strack, erect, starched, by the book, and determined to make us look sharp and stand tall. He led morning PT personally from atop a raised wooden PT platform constructed to his specifications. The platform was widely hated. Following a night of excessive drinking, a group of us carried that platform down to the riverbed, doused it with gasoline, and set it ablaze. A prank, but also a provocation. The captain ignited with rage. He saw it as a direct challenge to his authority. to his very manhood. He announced all 500 of us would pay. He ordered that all kimchi stands be brought to the parade ground the next day to be burned. Angry draftees struck back. Congressmen and senators were prompted to phone the general and complain about the unlawful taking of our property by Martinet. The inspector general and the judge advocate general got wads of complaints. The 7th Division radio station started playing Light My Fire and Play with Fire nonstop. Everyone was singing the line, "Don't play with me, because you're playing with fire." The captain backed down and soon was transferred. One more reason we have an all-volunteer army today.
Yeah, this is a Mick Jagger and Keith Richards song off their first album, Larger. Got your diamonds and you got your pretty clothes and the chauffeurs drive your car. You let everybody know that don't you play with me, you might be playing with fire.
But it's very like small town.
Don't you play with me, you might be playing with fire. She owns a block in St. John's Wood, and your father'd be right there with her if he only knew he could. Don't you play with me, you might be playing with fire. Don't you play with us, you might be playing with fire. Well, the old man took her diamonds, then he took her pretty clothes. Now she gets her kicks in London instead of New York anymore. So play with us, you might be playing with fire. Don't you play around with us, you just might be playing with fire. Diamonds and you got and the chauffeurs drive your car. You let everybody know. Don't play with us, you just might be playing with fire. Don't play around with us, you might be playing with fire.
So the next song is Just Walk Away, Renee, and our readers are Kathy Winfield and James Keegan. Kathy.
Just walk away. Don't run to the nearest exit. New to a small town and very pregnant with my second child, I attended a local church hoping to make a friend. My husband had stayed home with our 3-year-old, and I was running late as usual. I slipped into the already in progress service trying to be as discreet as a woman with a beach ball under her dress can be. Within minutes, just my section stood ready to sing. The elderly man next to me leaned over to share his hymnal. Even though I can't hold a tune, sounding more like a distressed feline in heat, I sang along. Resilient sopranos and resounding baritones rang out around me. Then my cheeks burned as I felt the eyes of the congregation staring at the enormously pregnant, tone-deaf woman who joined the choir. I cursed God for my lousy pipes and thought, what kind of choir didn't wear robes? Cursing God in church probably isn't a great idea because things got worse. The choir left my section and headed for the altar. The elderly man signaled for me to join them, but I shook my head. Sitting alone in the pew, I knew I was now the focus of everyone's attention. The collection plate was passed, and I realized, in my haste, I left my coat and purse in the car. A man stood before me, holding out the large silver plate brimming with money. I patted the pockets of my jumper, hoping to find a spare coin. The man waited. Did he think I was going to magically pull a bill out of my gargantuan belly? Or was he offering me money? The fallen woman who came to church seeking salvation. As the service was winding down, the idea of making friends had totally vanished, and I thought it was time to head for the nearest exit. But as I pushed open the door, I heard, "Wait!" I turned to see the minister coming my way. In my humiliation, I took off running. I glanced back to see the entire congregation gathered at the door, the minister with his vestments flapping in the wind, hot on my heels. "Stop!" he shouted. "Why are you running away?" "Because you're chasing me," I yelled. I like to blame my behavior on high estrogen levels, but I couldn't think of anything else but getting the hell out of there. As I sped away from the bewildered faces in my rearview mirror, I considered my options. Maybe I convert to Islam. Wearing a burqa seemed like a good idea.
Hi, everybody. This is a piece of flash fiction, a short story. It's called Last Exit Before Toll. Excuse me, could you maybe help me out with some money for gas in the toll? She smiled. Young, maybe 18. Dressed in a white jacket, a little too light for how cold it was. A dirty fur collar framed her face, washed out in the fluorescent light. Trailer park pretty, damaged blonde hair. He had stopped at the Wawa before the bridge, as he usually did, to pee and grab a coffee before the last push home to the beach. He'd been saying sorry to the girl as he turned, as he took her in. But when he saw her face, he reached into his wallet and pulled out the lone single snugged up against his saved receipts, smiled lopsidedly, and said, "All I got," and handed it to her, already heading for his car. He slid in behind the wheel and set his cup in the holder, and thought of the ATM next to the restroom outside, $400 in his checking account, the girl's shivery smile. As he walked back, the girl was gone, and when he got inside, he saw her talking to the manager by the sandwich counter. She turned, and though he did not meet her eye, he registered her smile and worried there was something in it that suggested she'd expected him to come back. It unsettled his charity and made him march quickly to the men's room, as if this had been the oversight he needed to address. The can was empty, and he spent a minute looking at his face in the mirror and feeling foolish, thinking how his mama had used to shake her head at him and say, "Charlie's big-hearted aunt, soft touch in a hard world." This time, as he made for his car, he did not look for the girl. As he passed exit 30 for Whitehall Road, he flipped on the radio to the oldies station he liked. He recognized the tune right off and hummed along, as the boy's voice from a life ago sang, "Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. The empty sidewalks on my block are not the same. You're not to blame." An image of his first wife, Marty, came into his mind then. On a payphone outside a 7-Eleven on a steamy August night in Newark, Delaware, all manner of bugs bouncing and buzzing on the fluorescent light above her head, as he listened to her telling her mom and dad in Vermont that they had made it okay, and the new place was nice, and they'd have a phone soon. As he approached the next exit for Sandy Point Park, he saw "Last Exit Before Toll" beneath the sign. He said out loud, "Well, I'll be a fool then." and yanked the wheel and crossed 3 empty lanes to make the ramp in time. On the ride back, he remembered the story from church of the Good Samaritan and goosed the gas a little, and pictured how he'd asked Renee, she had somehow become the girl in the song as he got back on 50 West, which car was hers, and tell her to pull it up to the pump where he'd fill it, and then she could follow him through the bridge toll and he'd cover her, get her home safe. He was pleased, as this plan allowed him to know for sure where the money was going. As he pulled in the opposite drive from the one he'd exited moments ago, he could not see her outside, but it was in the 20s, so she was likely still inside. She wasn't, though. He went to the ATM and took out $50 and bought a couple of packs of peppermint gum. When he got back in the car, he wheeled slowly around the parking lot, wondered about the cab of the semi parked around back. He thought again of the song as he got on 50 East, but he left the radio off this time. You're not to blame. But he was. He knew he was.
Yeah. I don't know, are we?
Hi,
Hey,
are we
hey.
good? Can you hear us? I'm so seldom right.
Yep.
I'll get you another one. Thank you.
Do I have to mindless banter again, Stu?
Mindless part of it. Let's go into the band.
Thanks, sorry about that. So Stuart wrote us down when we signed in as readers, because he said singing is like reading, sorta. So I guess we're gonna read the next song. Kidding.
It's reading with tone.
Thanks. Yeah, that was the mindless banter.
So we learned this song last April and then forgot it, and then learned it again last September and forgot it, and then learned it again last month.
And I forgot it,
Then we changed the key we sang it in,
so I didn't know it. And when this is over, we're going to change it again,
but we've got a new key we're going to work on.
so that I will have forgotten it again. Now I got to forget what I already know now. That's my problem.
I don't know why I like this song. I heard this song once in my head, and then I said something to her, and she said, yeah, I like that song. It's on my iPod. So I learned it, and then Amy said, I hate that song. But you're coming around, I think.
Well, if we change the key, I'll like it. He changed the key last night, and he said, try this part, try that part. I said, my brain is full. I'm like Winnie the Pooh. I'm not that smart. Little brain. So he said, try this. I just want to see if you can do it. I'm like, well, this sounds better, but I have no... I said, please don't do this now. I said, do this when it's all over. He said, okay. Okay, that was enough mindless banter. You ready? All right, cool.
I see the street sign pointing one way. I see the empty lot we pass each day. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. The empty sidewalks of my block are not the same. You're not to blame.
From deep inside the tears I'm forced to cry. From deep inside the pain I chose to hide. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. Now that the rain beats down upon my weary eyes, for me it cries. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. Now that the rain beats down upon my weary eyes, for me it cries. Your name and mine inside a heart upon the wall still finds a way to haunt me, though they're so small. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. The empty sidewalks of my block are not the same. You're not to blame. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. Just walk away. Walk away.
So the next song is When We Say Nothing at All by Alison Krauss, and we just have one reader because Mike O'Neill is not feeling well tonight. So Sue Towers.
Okay, can you hear me? Closer? Oh, okay. Oh, dear, okay. When we say nothing at all, when we say nothing at all, our feelings go unknown. Our fears remain invisible. Our hearts stay hidden from those who might understand and help us find our way. He sat in his armchair day after day. He stared at the television screen, watched hero detectives solve the crimes, catch the criminals. He knew the answers to his crossword puzzles, filled in the squares, checked off the clues. But when she entered the room, he said nothing at all. A man isn't a man if he isn't in control, he had been taught. Men have the answers. Men are right and strong. Men don't need to be helped by anyone at all. He sat in the armchair, his ankles swelled. A pain stabbed his back so that he cringed in agony. "My back hurts," he said, saying nothing at all. He no longer slept when he went to bed. He tossed, sweat drenching his shirt. In the dark, he changed into another and found his way to the television in the living room. Behind closed doors so no one would know, he said nothing at all. He said nothing at all when he lost his job, when his savings disappeared, when his debt spilled from every file and drawer. His face soured and his anger seeped into his soul. He resented people with money, academic jobs, and government pensions, people who joked and smiled and said kind things. Lines cut into his face, a glaze filled his eyes. He stopped talking to friends, he stopped going out. He changed his drenched shirt night after night, walked through the hall, searching for the light. When we say nothing at all, our feelings go unknown, our fears remain invisible. Our hearts stay hidden from those who might understand and help us find our way.
This is a great song for Amy. Those of you who know Amy,
I'm sorry.
for Amy to say nothing at all would be really unusual. Yeah, look at Crystal back there.
I'm sorry, Crystal. Crystal knows why I'm sorry. She must have heard the song Fever about 1,000 times before I ever sang it live, right? Yeah. For you, I'm indebted for life. That's why I have him. Thank you very much. Oh, I guess I'm not supposed to talk. Okay, well, anyway, we call this song Amazing. Because I don't remember the words to the songs. I mean, lyrics. Song titles.
Amy always picks a word out of the song and uses that as a title. Which sometimes I understand. It's a sad thing that I can read her mind. It says more about me than you.
Well, we sing Ring of Fire and call it Fire in the Hole.
You call it Fire in the Hole. I call it. I just play along.
So, Mary Beth, you should have had a writer that wrote about amazing because, or maybe that's not G-rated, so I don't know.
We'll do that next time for another song.
We'll name it something else.
This is Alison Krauss.
It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart. Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try as I may, I could never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing.
Smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. The touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. You say it best when you say nothing at all.
All day long I can hear people talking out loud, but when you hold me near, you drown out the crowd. Old Mr. Webster could never define what's being said between your heart and mine.
Smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. The touch of your hand says you'll catch me if ever I fall. You say it best when you say nothing at all. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying
you'll never leave me. The touch of your hand says you catch me if ever I fall.
you say it best when you say nothing at all.
So our next song is Private Conversation. Conversations by Lyle Lovett, and our readers are Sabatino Maglione and Ken Catterton.
I have a short poem, which is a kind of a continuation of the song's central theme with a new twist. Living without one's own heart and going away with the others. Faithfulness they pledge to each other when destiny willed they will be geographically separated. In private conversation, he promised not to free himself from the mast of faithfulness when he would hear the sirens' sweet voices. A colossal undertaking called for its realization in thought and action, for self-constructed reality often dwells in the shadows of appearances, inevitably leading to deception. In private conversation, she promised not to free herself from the mast of faithfulness when she would hear the sirens' sweet voices. To each synthesis corresponds an antisynthesis. Worldly experiences are not without alternatives. Is not human faithfulness an experiment? As all life is an experiment? Vigilance is not always a fortress against the impetuousness of testing what lies behind the horizon. In private conversation, they promise not to free themselves from the mast of faithfulness when they would hear the siren sweet voices. Behold, an indelible wrinkle sprang in their good intentions, impossible to iron out. Surrendering to temptation is not so elusive and oracular, suggesting hidden depths and complexities. The old adage, away from the eyes, away from the mind, away from the eyes, away from the heart, opens the door to unexpected freedom. In private conversation, they promise not to free themselves from the mast of faithfulness when they would hear the sirens' sweet voices. But unlike Homer's Ulysses, they surrendered to the power of the sweet voices and left their well-known traveling road for an unknown one, ready and willing to make new promises.
I hope you can hear me. Yes? Louder? Much louder? Good, I feel ready. Private conversations. Private conversations. Privates don't have conversations. Privates speak only when they're spoken to. My 3-month stay in 1961 in the United States Marine Corps recruit depot, Paris Island, South Carolina, included very few conversations that I initiated. A conversation minus the expletives would have sounded something like this. Private? Are you eyeballing me? Sir, no sir! Where are you from, Private? Sir, Wisconsin, sir! What? You came all the way down here just to piss me off? Sir, no sir! I got my eye on you, Private. That's how I and 79 other recruits in platoon 216, I Company, 2nd Battalion, spent 90 training days on that barrier island off the Atlantic coast. We men had chosen the Marine Corps for a variety of reasons. Some were following in a family tradition. Some were seeking adventure. Some were college graduates. Some were high school dropouts. And some had no place else to go. 2 have been offered the choice of jail time or the Marine Corps. Most of the conversations were for the purpose of transforming privates from their civilian ways into the Marine Corps way. Some for physical training, some for weapons training, some for hand-to-hand combat, and some were perhaps for the drill instructors' amusement. One evening, early in our training, our drill instructor had a conversation with all 80 of us at one time. He said he was going to teach us how to get into the rack, the beds, by the numbers. We did everything by the numbers. He began, 1, remove your pillows. 2, pull the covers back. 3, climb in the rack. 4, pull the covers up. 5, snore. And with that, standing next to our bunk beds, we began, all 80 of us, simultaneously. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Suddenly he shouted, wait a minute, get back. My grandmother gets into her rack faster than you do, and she's 85. Again, 1, 2, and so on, for 8, 9, 10 more efforts. Then suddenly he stood silently, turned out the lights, and said, good night, girls. And that was the end of another conversation. Like that story.
This is a song we've been trying to learn for several years. It's one of those songs that has a real good meaning if you listen to the words. It follows, it tells a story. But it's also one of those songs where you could take the second line of the first verse and put it into the third line of the fourth verse, and it would still make some amount of sense. So it's difficult to tell where we are in this song. But since I don't sing the verses, I don't give a shit. And Amy can sing whatever she wants since I don't have to sing along with her. I'm just going to sing the chorus. And I'm going to belt it out, so I hope you know.
That was supposed to be a private conversation.
Lyle,
I look just like him when I wake up in the morning.
Tom Petty used to be the ugliest man in rock and roll until Lyle Lovett came along. But he can sing.
And his hand it fell behind her as his arm had reached around. Oh, and she looked at the window as she watched the shade go down. It was a private conversation. No one heard her say that man she left behind her was 2,000 miles away, singing, boy, pick up that fiddle and play that steel guitar. Oh, and find yourself a lady and dance right where you are. Hey, hey. She was a lonely girl from nowhere with a smile all sweet with pain. Oh, and she never stopped to wonder, oh, if she'd see him again. It was a private conversation. No one heard her say that man that she was looking for was only 20 streets away,
singing, boy, pick up that fiddle, oh, and play that steel guitar, oh, and find yourself a lady, and dance right where you are. Hey, hey, and the band, it just kept playing, oh, as she came walking in, oh, and he never stopped to wonder, oh, if he'd see her again. It was a private conversation, no one heard him say that girl he left behind him was 2,000 miles away, singing, boy, pick up that fiddle, oh, and play that steel guitar, oh, and find yourself a lady, and dance right where you are. Hey, hey, and the moral of this story, I guess it's easier said than done. Oh, to look at what you've been through and to see what you've become. It was a private conversation, no one heard her say. It was a private conversation. Yeah. And his hand fell behind her as his arm had reached around. Oh, and she looked at the window as she watched the shade go down. It was a private conversation, no one heard her say. It was a private conversation, no one heard him say. It was a private conversation, no one heard them say. It was a private conversation. Hey, 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 hey.
And our last song for the evening is White Liar by Miranda Lambert, and our readers are Bill Kennedy and Paul Dyer. Bill.
Read that 298 words tonight. Tonight I am merely a journalist reporting a true story objectively and with lack of bias. Tonight I will journalate. I was disappointed with the list of songs when I received it. I only recognized two, and I had no idea what I could write about with those. I only recognized two artists, one of whom only because he was married to Julie Roberts. I'm sorry, Julia Roberts. I have trouble with that. I Googled each of the songs and read the lyrics, looking for inspiration. There wasn't any. I listened to each of the artists perform their songs on YouTube. 4 out of 5, no inspiration. When I watched the lovely Miranda Lambert perform White Liar, I realized that there's more to a song than the words and the music. And I decided that I should study Miranda Lambert. I watched the movement of her lips as she formed each word with breath that began deep in her chest and became song as it rose up her throat, over her tongue, and out her mouth. I watched as her eyelids opened and closed over orbs of Carolina blue. I watched her dainty fingers stroke, strum, and pluck the guitar. First the right hand, then the left. During my fourth or fifth study of her performance, I became distracted by a flashing blue banner on the right side of my computer screen. Had it been there all along, or had it just appeared? It didn't matter. It was annoying me now. During the next chorus, which I knew quite well by now, I looked at this blue intrusion. I knew immediately I had a story for tonight. As Miranda sang "A White Liar," the truth comes out a little at a time. The banner flashed, white letters on a blue background. Rate President Obama's credibility.
Is that good? Come on, I got a piece right here. White Liar. Got off to a rocky start in my lying career when my daddy said, "Son, promise me you'll never tell a lie." I promised, Papa. The problem was I was a lying neophyte. It takes years to learn all the available variations on the truth. There's going strong with God's honest truth, which usually comes with a stack of Bibles. The whole truth suggests the possibility of less, like a half-truth. Do you love me, sweetheart? Yes. But only half as much as I used to. Keep shaving away until you're down to just an element of truth, which gives you the whole periodic table to work with. Like untruthium, with a half-life of 3 seconds. But you've crossed the line at untruth, the softer side of lying, also known as Clintonian truth. On to little white lies, regular white lies, whoppers. An ex once called me a bald-faced liar, but she was forced to recant when I pointed out my 5 o'clock shadow. So I wonder, would it be easier to live in a parallel universe where truthy decisions are made for us, where there was a giant wheel of honesty with all the variations appliqued upon it that we were forced to obey? Travel with me now to that world. Imagine the woman of my dreams stepping from a dressing room, twirling demurely, smiling coquettishly, and posing that awful question: do these jeans make me look fat? Which sets the wheel a-spinning. Tick, 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 tick. The wheel slows. Tick, tick, tick. Yes, white lie. Tick. Oh no! And as we look at the woman with whom I've shared so many magical moments, I shake my head sadly. I've got to be brutally honest. That looks like 2 Jimmy Dean pure pork sausages stuck on a beach ball.
ratings. That thing was... Usually when I'm watching a woman on the internet and a little blue thing comes up, it usually starts with 1-900.
Aren't you supposed to white lie about that?
I was white.
He said usually, he meant he never.
Speechless about the orange bucket.
Right, so we were, I don't know where, this song just popped into my head the other day, and the melody did. Things pop in and out of my head often. It used to be other things, but now it's usually pretty benign things. Usually, I was saying this the other day, sometimes I lost my head and my mind was in it. Occasionally I find it. This song, in an effort to write some words, we actually came up with it. I did have to steal the melody. I'm only talking so I can remember it.
Doesn't matter. I don't think this has a key. I was going to give you full credit for writing all the music and lyrics.
We're going to do it in the key of D.
Remember that for next time.
I used to give Mary Beth a lot of grief about the driving force here in the Writers Guild. But there's also you guys out there, so we wrote a little song about the Writers Guild. It's kind of based on a children's song, which Amy thought was appropriate.
This has nothing to do with lying, by the way. That's coming.
The writers in the guild go read, 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 read. The writers in the guild go read, 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 all through the town. The readers in the guild go write, 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 write. The readers in the guild go write, 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 all through the town. The poets in the guild go po, 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 po. The poets in the guild go po, 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 all through the town. Mary Beth must not be named, not be named, not be named. Mary Beth must not be named all through the town. The leaders of the guild go orange, 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 orange. The leaders of the guild go bucket, 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 all through the town.
You know, we spend time doing this. You can understand why this is so bloody fun. It really is. We must have laughed our butts off. Oh, no, we didn't. What did you say about butts earlier, Paul? Something about sausage? Anyway. Okay.
I don't have a butt. If I didn't put a wallet in my pocket, my pants would fall down.
It's okay, I made up for it. Okay, so now we're on to lying. Okay. Start the way you want it. Play.
Hey, white liar, truth comes out of it all at a time, and it spreads just like a fire, slips off of your tongue like turpentine. And I don't know why, white liar.
You better be careful what you do. Wouldn't wanna be in your shoes if they ever found you out. You better be careful what you say. It never really added up anyway. I got friends in this town. Hey, white liar,
Truth comes out of it all at a time,
and it spreads just like a fire,
slips off of your tongue like turpentine. And I don't know why, white liar.
You said you went out to a bar and walked some lady to her car, but your face has more to tell. 'Cause my cousin saw you on the street with a redhead named Bernice. Turns out you don't lie too well. Hey, wise liar, truth comes out a little at a time, and it spreads just like a fire, slips off of your tongue like turpentine, and I don't know why, liar. Here's a bombshell just for you. Turns out I've been lying too. Now I'm a white liar. Truth comes out a little at a time, and it spreads just like a fire, slips off of my tongue like turpentine, and I don't know why, liar. And I don't know why, liar. And I don't know why, liar.
Thank you.
I am so grateful to the writers who spent a lot of time to prepare their readings tonight, and I'm so grateful to our musicians and Scotty and Victor in the back, and I'm grateful to all of you. It really is amazing that on a Monday night in January we have a room of 50 plus people here. We will be back the third week in February. We're always here, it's the third Tuesday of the month. There is that orange bucket on your way out. And thank you so much.